You're fine. You'll always be fine. You want to know why? Because you're a man. Men can be fat and hairy and ugly and impolite and old, and nobody cares. Everybody likes you. Everybody wants to talk to you.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to everyone. I just want to talk to you.
That's nice. Really great. Appreciate it, honey. But I am changing. It is happening. So please be supportive.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Movie Oblivion, the podcast about episodes of horror anthologies based on comic books and comic strips that people have stopped talking about. We are your hosts. I'm Jordan and I'm fine with this.
And I'm Kumar, that's me. I did get an email from Madonna asking if we were going to do all 93 episodes of Tales from the Crypt. I said, Madge, we're not doing it.
Madonna again!
Yeah. Indeed, this week we were talking about Episode 4 of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities from 2022, based on Some Other Animals Meat by EM Carroll.
The name of the comic is Some Other Animals Meat.
Yes, that's right. Let's pause the podcast.
Yeah, what do you think? Well, I don't know if there's really what you call spoilers.
I don't think you can spoil it. I've done a whole other episode of Deconstructing Comics on EM Carroll's comics.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I should have listened to that before I came.
And they're not spoilable because they're really...
The comics certainly...
Did you read any of...
Yeah, I read Through the Woods, and of course I read Some Other Animals Meat.
They're based on atmosphere and things not fitting together.
Yeah.
Gaps. Like, wait a second, how is that guy there? There's no answers.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's spoilable.
Well, you can't spoil the comics, but what about the episode of the Cabinet of Curiosities?
We can kind of spoil it, but it's really very much like an episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
It's been so mutilated.
Good. Oh, I'm so glad you said that. Yes, it is just like an episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, watching it, I was thinking, jump way ahead. Jordan Peele had this Twilight Zone series that ran a couple of seasons. I watched all of season 1. I probably can't remember the plot of a single one. They were really just...
Formulaic.
There's kind of a little bit of a social consciousness about them, which was good.
Yes.
And I do kind of remember... Those are the aspects that kind of stuck with me. I remember that episode a little bit.
Well, that's, of course, is much like the original Twilight Zone.
Yes. Well, I think somehow more so in the original Twilight. I don't know. But, and I watched all of Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams. That was another anthology series. I don't remember a single episode of it.
I watched that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only one I can remember is Kill All Others.
Right. Yes.
That was a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
I like that one.
So this is kind of in that boat. I think it's a bit like Outer Limits or something. I'm surprised that Guillermo del Toro's name is on it, as if he curated these, which he shows up at the start of the episode like Alfred Hitchcock.
Like Rod Serling in Night Gallery.
Like Rod Serling, yes. Yep, as he always... Yeah, in all those shows, it's very much in that format. It's like he chose 10 stories to do. He's a guy that we know loves comics. He's got gallery shows of his collection of comic art. Two Hellboy movies and a Blade movie. And I'm assuming he read this comic and was like, whoa, this is pretty great. And I'm assuming he saw Ana Lily Amirpour's work, especially A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, and was like, this is a filmmaker to watch out for.
Yep.
And was like, let's put this thing together. And something
got lost.
Something
got
went
lost in
astray.
Translation. Oh, great! Well, that's cool. I'm so glad that you feel that way because I feel differently.
Okay.
We'll get to that. But yes, so he produced this. I guess you'd call him the showrunner, Guillermo del Toro of this series. He wrote at least 2 of the stories that were adapted.
Okay.
Unpublished short stories, perhaps written just for the show. 2 short stories by H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes. Okay, right, that's right.
Dreams in the Witch House and Pickman's Model.
Yes.
And this one.
Okay, yeah.
The comic one.
Yeah.
So, let's jump right into it. Should we talk about the comic first?
So, talk a little bit about...
This is a webcomic originally.
It was a webcomic, and EM Carroll broke out under the name Emily Carroll in 2010 with a comic called His Face All Red.
Which I read, yes.
And everybody was sharing this online. They're like, you gotta read this thing. It is really, like all of their stories, very unsettling. I don't even need to go into it because we're not going to be covering it on the episode, but it's hard to describe that almost all of their stories...
They're about a mood, or a...
Yeah, somebody... Well, in this... His Face All Red, it's about a man that kills his brother kind of out of jealousy because his brother's a popular one. They're out in the woods hunting what they think is some sort of monster. It just turns out to be a wolf. But while they're out there, they find this mysterious pit.
Yeah.
And the brother kills the wolf, and the man is like, well, he's going to get all the glory. He actually hid while his brother was killing the wolf. So then we get this flash.
This isn't even the comic that was adapted this week.
I'm just trying to describe to kind of get to the point of it, which is that the brother comes back appears back in town a few days later.
Yeah. 3 days later.
And he seems exactly like he was before, except that originally the man had torn off a piece of his jacket.
The younger brother.
The younger brother. And the jacket's all healed. Like, there's no tear on the jacket. And the brother seems fine. The brother's living with the wife. Everything's normal.
He's not accused him of murdering him.
No, but he won't look at him. He won't look at him. And then one day, finally, the younger brother decides he's going to go out in the woods and look in the pit. He goes into the pit, and he sees a person in there sleeping, his brother. And then the last panel, he just rolls onto his back, and his eye is open.
Opens one eye, yeah.
The end.
And he's got a red face.
Yeah.
So what happened? Who knows?
We don't know. We don't know who the guy above ground is. We don't know who's below ground.
Why was there a pit? He digs another pit in his yard. The brother that returned.
Yes.
It's all just... It's very much a collection of creepy imagery.
Yep.
There's no real story. Doesn't really...
Well, the story is... It's
beginning,
all...
middle, and end.
Exactly. It sinks its fingers into your brain, and you're trying to figure out how could this fit together. You're trying to do the work.
It's not giving you any hints.
No.
I looked online briefly about this comic. We're going to end up talking about His Face All Red more than we are about some other animals' meat. I went online to look at some of the fan theories on what's going on in it, and they're crazy.
I don't think
because there's absolutely nothing given away.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough data deliberately. There's not enough data in there to put together a working theory of... And these aren't like... Carroll's not working off of fairy tales or myths that we know. They're developing their own.
This isn't Cinderella.
No,
although there's one that's a bit like Bluebeard and his wives in one of which is that one's pretty much. Yeah. But this one, it's not like Snow White or Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
You should see some of the fan theories. I don't even want to just imagine the wackiest, craziest thing, and people are earnestly stating.
I'm guessing it's a bit like the theories about The Shining.
Yeah, I think like making a big deal out of how the hall smells of lilacs.
Yes, and we get a touch of that in this story as well, where the lotion smells like lavender. That's a detail that's in there.
Yes, it does. Yeah, good point. I hadn't, but I feel like it's very much if you're hoping for a clear story, a clear sense of something like with Jennifer, where we both have these very specific takes, and I think either one of us could be right. But with this, no one's right.
Yeah,
there's no explanation.
Yeah.
It's more about. I said mood earlier, so it's more about getting across an atmosphere or a sense through some disjointed storytelling to throw you off balance and creepy imagery, but not too creepy because it's still pretty kind of straightforward. The art, there's not a lot of. There's one in the Through the Woods with worms living under the skin. Yeah, but that's about as horrific generally as it gets.
There's no real body horror or gore or anything. The fear does not work like that. I do think Carroll's comics are genuinely frightening. But it's more about what you don't know and you're
about getting across a sense.
Yes,
an emotional kind of sense.
Unease.
I would say unease is good. I would say for this one, for His Face All Red, guilt is a big one.
Yes.
Because the little brother obviously feels guilty.
Yes.
And the brother coming back, has to confront his guilt, becomes horrified and uneasy.
Yeah.
But as to what's going on otherwise, because there's a lot of else going on, it's clearly not all in his mind, because all the townspeople are welcoming back him. And that doesn't make sense if it's just like a ghost. So, alright then, some other animals meet.
Yeah. So, some other animals meet, you can read this on Carroll's website, and all these comics, I recommend people explore them, they're on the website. Plays it a little bit different on the website than in a book, because Carroll designs the scroll to be a certain length. Like this one's going to scroll down like 7 images, and then you press the next button, which in this particular story is a severed hand. You press the next page, and it might just be a couple of panels on the next page, and you press the next one, it might be a really long. It's very deliberate and controlled.
Yes. So she's playing with the format that is provided by using a web page to view the comic. They're, like Kumar says, they're all of variable length. You might scroll for pages to get to the severed hand on one page, and then the next page, the next HTML page, will be maybe just one. Or two before you get to the severed hand. She's also known to use GIFs. Where do you come down on GIF? Are you GIF or GIF?
I used to be GIF. I've taught myself to say GIF.
Anyway, that was a fun digression. She's known to use GIFs so that the images move, and it's very. I think you can read them on your phone because they're they're vertical, very vertical and narrow.
Yes, but I did notice some things happen with the programming of HTML, because there's one page here where you open it, and the next page there's black across the entire top, and it's like dripping down, but it's across the entire top of the screen, so it might read very different in portrait mode versus landscape.
I only read them on my computer, so
me too.
Couldn't say.
So this is a story about this woman named Stacy who's selling this lotion called Aloe Glow, and she has these kind of Avon parties, and she has all these ladies over, and she demonstrates how wonderful this stuff is, and they have a great time. She puts a tiny bit on herself, but later she reveals she doesn't tell the women that she doesn't use it herself because she has an allergic reaction to it. So generally she's selling the product, but she doesn't use it. But she massages it into their skin and stuff like that, gives them a little hand massage, and they're having a great time. And we're starting out with one of these parties, but then we get a little caption from her that says, of all the parts on human body, I think the hands are the most repulsive, the knuckles and nails. So she's actually disgusted, kind of.
Yeah, which is interesting because she's very gregarious.
Yes.
Like, people invite her to hold these parties because they love how well she runs them.
Yes.
How friendly, how sociable.
And she says a line, she says, I'm so good at the parties, I enjoy them, I'm so good at them. Which, the way Carroll's laid out, next line, I'm so good at, there's no period, I'm so good at the parties, comma, I enjoy them, next line, I'm so good at them, and I enjoy people too, of course. Almost sounds like she's lying to herself a little bit at this stage. Not quite sure.
Because she finds hands revolting, and she's just spent the whole party rubbing lotion into people's hands.
Yes. But after she shows everyone out the door, she comes back into the kitchen, and she calls her husband Keith, because all of her bottles of this aloe glow lotion have spilled out on the table somehow. She assumes he's made a mess of it, and he's like, what? What are you talking about?
Touched your stuff?
And she says, never mind, I'll just clean it up tomorrow. So she turns out the light, goes up. This is all page 1, quote unquote, page 1. So now we get
HTML page.
Yes. So now we get to the next page, which is a short one of her looking in her mirror. She's a middle-aged lady, plus size, like overweight, and she takes off her bathrobe and she kind of examines her body.
Disapprovingly.
In the nude. Yeah, disapprovingly, but it also reminded me a bit of Under the Skin with ScarJo. There's a scene where she is nude in front of a mirror. Now, she's an alien, and she's examining her own body and, not really understanding it, or she feels like, what is this thing? It's a really amazing moment in that movie, and I think we maybe are leading a bit up to that here, but she really examines herself from all sides. She's selling these beauty products,
but she's not happy.
She's maybe not happy,
and she finds she finds human hands revolting. She's looking at her own body critically in the mirror. Dissatisfied with it. Generally dissatisfied with it aging.
Yes, aging is a big part of this. And physical changes. So, the next page, she is in bed with her husband Keith, and she hears a noise. She says, Keith, wake up. I heard a noise. He says, you heard the noise, you go see what it is.
Husband of the year?
Yes. Actually, we never see Keith's face. We only hear his voice 2 times. She goes downstairs, and she looks in the kitchen or next to the table where the goop was, the lotion had spilled that she hadn't cleaned up that night. She was going to clean in the morning. And there's a kind of goop monster, a humanoid gooey thing that's standing in the corner looking down, and then it lifts its head and it maybe has breasts, but you have to understand this thing just looks like it's just muck. It's just a pile of goo. And then her eyes widen, and the thing morphs like the T-1000 and goes all up on the ceiling, and then drips down onto the bottles of Aloe Glow that were left on the table.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they're just the way they are. She goes back up to bed, and Keith says, "So was it a murderer?" Without budging from his position in bed. Right? Okay, so now the next page, she's out shopping with her friend. The friend gets a text from someone else who is pregnant. And Stacy points out that she's lucky she's never broken a bone. No one's ever done an x-ray or an ultrasound, kind of related to the pregnancy. But she says, I wonder what if inside it's somehow the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
What if my meat is some other animal's meat and the human part of me is just the skin, like the smooth layer of dough you drape over an uncooked pie. So she's feeling like she's in the wrong body, kind of. And that's part of, the mention of pregnancy earlier kind of also is connected to that, this other being inside you. So something's going on here. Her friend says, oh, my skin's so dry, I feel like a lizard. Stacy gives her some of the cream. She puts the cream on. We see Stacy looking at her putting the cream on and not sure how she feels about it. It's kind of a blank expression. Now we get to the page where at the top of the page is all just a dripping, it's black with these drips of white lotion coming down.
Yeah.
And then we get these extreme close-ups of kind of messed up teeth, probably Stacy's teeth.
Well, it's the human body in high magnification.
Yes.
And that always looks disgusting.
Yeah, so there's the teeth, there's plucking hairs, there's stretch marks, there's wrinkles around eyes, like crow's feet almost, and there's cellulite, and then we see the door of the bathroom. So I think this is her, she's been looking at herself, examining herself.
Door of the bathroom. There's 6 panels.
Yeah.
Underneath the drippy black stuff.
Yeah.
Teeth, hairs,
stretch
marks,
wrinkles,
cellulite, door.
Yes.
What? I don't know. It's beyond me. But
I think she's been in there looking at herself, and she's left. She's now exited.
It's just locative. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's So the grotesquerie of the body.
Yeah.
I think people listening will have figured it out by now. I think the mood of this one is what's sometimes termed dysphoria.
Yeah.
That is the unease. In this case, unease with one's own body.
Yes, especially as she's getting older and her body's changing.
It doesn't feel like she's uncomfortable in her own skin.
Yeah.
Her body feels like alien meat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it because she's aging? Is it because
or something...
Or something else that she's lost touch with her humanity?
Yes. Yeah.
Like socially, she's beginning to find herself and the people around her revolting.
Yeah.
You're getting... It doesn't
she's
really
in this
matter.
It's interesting, there's things that aren't spoken about, like the fact that she's constantly selling. To her friends, like, try this lotion that she sells. She's in this constant, like, capitalist state. Yeah, and she can't use it herself. It's interesting. So she has, the next page, we have another party, but this time when she rubs some lotion into somebody's skin, giving them a massage, it seems like their hand opens up and goop pours out of it.
Yeah.
And the other person's putting it on their neck, and it looks like her neck opens up and that puts it on her face, and then we get one panel of body horror where everyone's like...
We're getting body horror now. We said earlier that Carol didn't go in for body horror. She's definitely going in for body horror in a big way on this page.
Yeah.
The people are literally melting into goo.
Yeah.
And their gooey hands are reaching out and caressing Stacy, and she's just
it's like this impossible stretch.
It.
What did it remind me of? Somebody's arm stretching too long like that.
Is it like Freddy Krueger in Nightmare on Elm Street 2?
Certainly the first one, his arms go long, but I'm trying to think of... Oh, I was thinking of Bram Stoker's Dracula, where he's the coachman and his hand reaches out to grab Harker and pull him in, and the hand just keeps going and going and going.
That's a cool scene.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So after all this, we get on the bottom of this page, we get another black...
More of the goo
dripping down, just like a blackness.
So she's just disgusted by everything around her.
But we are assuming she's had some kind of anxiety breakdown, something like that, because the next page, one of her friends is still there, has stayed after the party because she's had an outburst of some sort, and they're like, are you going to be okay? But now she says, what if someone's having dreams, and it's not that the dreams they're having feel so vivid that they think they're real life, but that real life feels so closely, so it feels so cloudy, they think they're in a dream when they're not. Because I imagine it feels like they're covered in these layers, these invisible layers that muffle the world around them. It doesn't block things out entirely, just muddies it, smears a little, which sounds like the layers of lotion. How can you... Yeah, but if he mutes the senses so much, how can you trust what does make it through? It's so easy for your body to lie to you. So now it's like, yeah, her body has changed into something that she doesn't
recognize.
Trust. Yeah, doesn't recognize. Doesn't trust the sensations that are coming through.
Feel
like she's becoming another person on the...
You're disconnected from your body.
Yes.
You know, you've got your mentality, and now you feel like you're inhabiting this foreign thing.
Yeah.
This sense is coming across when you read the comic.
Yeah.
You're getting the sense of it.
Yeah.
Even though what's happening here is not clear, and this is the penultimate page.
Yeah.
And a lot of this page is about linking it to another comic, I think, some of this content.
Oh, okay.
I only know this because of reading online. This character here who's speaking to Stacy is from another comic.
Oh, okay. Okay.
As well. And some of the things she's saying is referring to events in another comic.
I see. Okay.
Fine.
Yep.
Then
when the friend leaves, her advice to Stacy to get to sleep is, she would imagine another woman sleeping really peacefully someplace warm and dark until I was her too.
Yeah.
So imagining herself as another person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we get a page of
creepy shit. It's that same door.
The bathroom door, but this time there's a light that's forming. Carol's really controlled the gray and the white space here. Something is forming in the bathroom, and then it forms into this kind of glob monster, but based on the shape in panel 5, I would say it's Stacy's kind of body.
Yeah,
but it's
vaguely woman. You can see breasts.
Yeah, and based on the size.
But then in panel 6, it's just like
a weird, and there's like
Lovecraftian horror.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then we get the last page where Stacy decides to start using it, even though she's allergic to it. It does revitalize as much as it says, a must-have, and then I'll just pop it in my purse. And she says, I think I was overreacting before when I thought Aloe Glow's Cucumber Clean Daily Moisturizer gave me an allergic reaction. It's a little skin puckering, and it's hardly noticeable. And the redness fades eventually. It's really not a big deal. It's not a big deal. We see, like, lotion bottles with goop coming out of them.
We don't see her again.
No.
We just see her from behind and a close-up of her eye and her hands.
Yes.
So, what's happened here? Don't know. Has she vanished? Has she vanished into the body that she found so grotesque?
Yeah, she says, I'm just... And then next line, I'm happy... No period again, just like before when she talked about how she was so good at the parties.
I'm happy with the person, caps.
Yes.
Capital person
who looks
back at me. So did, in that previous page where imagine yourself until you become that person, is that what she did? Is that how she solved her unease?
Yeah.
And now she is the monster that she felt her body to be?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, but it feels pretty creepy.
Yeah.
And that's what matters here.
Yes.
This is all about a sense.
Yes. Of losing your own identity as you get older because your body's changing.
Yeah, that's a reading.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
To me, it's just, less centered around aging, more just around the waking realization that you inhabit a walking flesh pile.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really accurate, actually. And she's kind of trying to solve it with this aloe glow. Okay, so let's get to this episode, which is now called The Outside.
Right.
It's not called Some Other Animals Meet.
No.
Starring Kate Micucci as Stacy, the skinniest actress in Hollywood, I think. Seemed like a slightly odd casting choice.
Well, she normally... does she do a lot of serious roles? She's primarily a comedian,
she's a musical comedy. She has that group Garfunkel and Oates, so that's her main thing. She was the voice of Clayface in Lego Batman. I will point out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And...
well, we're going to do Lego Batman.
We are going to do that.
So...
and Martin Starr is also in this, who was in Hulk and all 3 Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. So he's been 2 different characters in the MCU.
Right. He's the husband, isn't he?
No, he's the teacher. He's one of the high school teachers. Oh, no, he's in this. He's the husband. Yes, he's the cop husband. Yeah.
I just remember him from Knocked Up, where he's one of the stoners.
Yes. Well, his real breakout was Freaks and Geeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I read today that he didn't get any calls after Freaks and Geeks.
Right.
He quit acting for a while.
He's not recognizable now. He doesn't look like... You would never know he was the same guy that was on Freaks and Geeks.
No. I like him in this, actually, this episode.
I think he's very good in this, yeah. I actually think Kate Micucci is good in this.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing wrong with the acting.
No. Nothing wrong with the acting. Credit says based on a short story by Emily Carroll.
Yeah, interesting.
I do want to say, like...
Kind of explodes my theory from last week, where I said that was a pre-Marvel...
Yeah!
And they've used the
Why
same
didn't they say
nomenclature.
based on a webcomic by Emily Carroll or based on a comic
If
story?
webcomic sounds unprofessional, just say comic.
Yeah.
Some films are saying they're based on a comic when they're not even based on a comic
Toro,
now.
like, you know, he...
Everybody knows he
comics.
does comic stuff.
Yeah.
The guy's got nothing to prove. He did Shape of Water.
Yeah.
He's won 2 Oscars.
Yeah. I did find it odd that also the credit says Emily Carroll, not EM Carroll, because...
Yep. Do you want to explain that?
Well, as soon as I was watching Umbrella Academy, and when Ellen Page became Elliot Page, within a week, the credit on the old episodes had changed on Netflix. Like they had flicked a switch or something.
Yeah.
It was... Maybe Elliot Page has star power that EM Carroll doesn't have, that they couldn't change the name. I don't know. But, I mean, also, I don't know when...
Well, I suppose because it's a one-off, because
Yes.
Elliot Page continues to appear in the Umbrella Academy.
Yes.
So it makes sense that you might go back and check. To be up for the record, I understand why they did it.
Yeah.
But I have a big problem with digital media,
Yes.
books,
Sure.
and streaming.
But
going back and changing.
The other
things.
thing about this is EM Carroll had a book come out called The Guest in the House, which I haven't read, from First Second Books. 2023 came out in August 2023, so less than a year ago, and is credited as Emily Carroll in that. So I don't know when these changes happen.
Emily? Well, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, the question here is EM Carroll like Elliot Page? Has she transitioned, or does she just have a name that she prefers to use?
All I know is that it
might
always
just be-
referred to as a they.
She might still be.
The name might be
She might
Emily.
still use
Yeah.
the name
Yes,
Emily,
you're right.
and she just prefers the pronoun
I think you might be right. Or maybe EM Carroll does not care if their
If
dead
she's
name is on
credited as
their
Emily.
old projects.
So perhaps it's not a dead name, and it's just
Yes.
it's just that she has a preferred name.
Yes. Okay. So immediately it's set around Christmas time,
Yeah, it's another interesting choice.
and Kate Micucci as Stacy is at home watching TV. It's all commercials for 1-800 numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know if those are still a thing on late night TV in the US. Maybe it is.
And Guillermo del Toro's introduction,
Yes.
where
Oh yeah.
so this is interesting. He wanders out with his Coke bottle glasses,
Yeah.
wearing a suit, and he sort of talks a bit about late night TV.
Yeah.
He makes it sound like it's going to be about late night TV because the object he takes out of
He talks about 1-800 numbers, how you can call them and whatever you want is available if you call a 1-800 number.
yeah.
And he brings a code. Yeah, that's right. He brings us the remote control.
So the way this works is so people that are familiar with Rod Serling and Night Gallery, where Rod Serling would come out and look at a painting, and
or
talk
Hitchcock
about it.
in Hitchcock Presents.
Yeah, sure. And in this, Guillermo del Toro walks up to a literal cabinet,
Yeah.
because it's a cabinet of curiosities, and he takes out an object,
Yeah.
and he also has a small wooden carving of that week's director.
Right.
So he places, in this case, it's a remote control, is the object. And you think the way that it sounds is that it's going to be about, television. I don't know, something like
Yes. It's going to be all about TV controlling your life.
Yeah.
I'd say that is a theme in it.
It's very much, well, yeah.
But it's not a
partly
theme. It's not a theme. It's actually a mechanic.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. So it's
It could have been a radio or anything. It didn't have to be a TV. It could have been a painting that was speaking to her.
Yeah,
It's not
that's right.
specifically
Because
about television.
It's mass media and and beauty culture.
Yes, exactly. Yes. That's,
So the fact that it's a remote control
yeah, doesn't quite.
and it's about late night television specifically,
Yeah.
it could have been a lotion of the cream is the.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't want to offend any real companies that make
No.
beauty creams.
I don't know. So I should have mentioned also this episode is directed by Ana Lily Amirpour, who broke out in 2014 with a movie called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which is a movie I love.
Right, I haven't seen it, but I hear it's great.
It's a black and white Farsi language vampire movie.
So nuts.
Really underground, beautiful, one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. Came out, the same year as What We Do in the Shadows, and a year after Only Lovers Left Alive. So it was a big vampire season
Yeah.
at that point in time.
It wouldn't be hard for it to be... Yeah, those are all fine movies.
Yeah.
Those other two are okay. So I'm sure this one's pretty great too. She's apparently Iranian parents, I believe.
Yes.
But born in Britain.
Yes. And she also directed an episode of Legion, which was based on the New Mutants character. And she had a comic of a girl walks home alone at night, an adaptation of it. Two-issue adaptation, written by her. In
Bizarro comic book movie Oblivion, we could
talk about that.
Well, I mean, anything goes now.
Yes. But it's very strange for a movie that underground to get a comic adaptation, and for her herself to write it.
Who published it? Do we?
Oh, some oddball company called Radco or something like that.
Marjan Satrapi's influences.
I don't know. Very interesting.
We got another Persepolis.
I do think it's very interesting that we've had two Iranian descent directors on, and they've both been women. What is in the water over there? What's going on? So anyway, so I was stoked for this.
Right.
I mean, EM Carroll,
Guillermo del Toro,
Amirpour,
comics.
del Toro. I was very stoked. I was like, this is a perfect combo. Anyway, so it's very different. I mean, even the casting of Kate Micucci itself is odd. She's got her hair. She looks like Geddy Lee, 80s era Geddy Lee from Rush. They've given her the worst possible haircut.
It's deliberate, and
it's very deliberate. Yeah,
they've given her false teeth, so snaggle teeth.
Yeah,
and they've given her a lazy eye with prosthetics.
Oh yeah, a bit like Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, I guess. Oh, well, he had his contact lens, which is apparently really painful.
Right. Well, she presumably has contacts here.
To have the walleye,
I don't know how they've... hopefully the contact lens technology is advanced in Paul Giamatti's experience. So
she hears a noise from downstairs. She's scared. She goes down there. She calls her husband Keith, and he's a cop. So she calls him at the cop station. He's like, it's the same as always. There's nothing down there. Don't worry about it. I'll be home. So she's got, like, anxiety.
She's an anxious person.
That line is played not as, like, there's a noise downstairs. It's more like, this is a paranoid person.
This is a person who's...
Yeah. She works in a bank with all these ladies that are, like, ultra shallow.
Ladies who lunch.
They're all getting, like, plastic surgery and stuff. They're all very wealthy. I'm not sure why they're working in a bank.
Are they wealthy? I think
their husbands are wealthy enough. They live in mansions. There's no reason they need to work in a bank. They literally talk about how the boob job costs $25,000 or the facelift or whatever is $25,000. So they have the money to do this. I don't know why they're working for minimum wage in a bank. I think it's part of the scene setting, right? This episode takes place in a weird universe.
Yeah,
this
you're right.
Not our world.
Yeah, this bugs me. Yeah,
because she ends up going to their Christmas party. I'm like, why was she invited to this thing? She's so unlike them in every way. It doesn't make sense that she would show up at the party.
The point is that they're stereotypes.
Yes.
And they're serving an allegorical purpose, which is to highlight everything that's bad about certain aspects of beauty culture, I suppose.
Yeah.
Mass media, popular culture.
Yeah.
And like the nastiest and most vapid aspects of human behaviour on display here.
Yes.
So they work in a bank and judge all the people that come in, yet they're also fabulously rich, idle, like the idle rich as well, because they're just crapping on about how they're going to divorce their wealthy spouses and move on to the next partner.
Yeah.
They're spending all this money on these frivolous cosmetic procedures.
They're using aloe glow.
Oh yes, and they use aloe glow.
Yeah. One of them in particular is using aloe.
Yeah, Gina, who is the queen bee.
Yes.
She's the one with the house. And you're right, this takes place in a strange... I'm not sure how I feel about this. I'm not sure how I feel about shows where... This is not the only horror show that I've seen do it as well.
Yeah.
It Follows. Did you ever see It Follows, the film? Again, it's set in not quite now.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like now in most ways, but there'll be things like people will wear fashion from another decade.
Okay.
People will have cell phones when they shouldn't, or won't have cell phones when they should, or they'll be carrying around Discmans. And it's just, I don't know why. Is it meant to? Why?
Yeah. It's a stylistic choice. I think it's trying to make something look stylish, and I think it's actually kind
distracting.
Yeah.
I find myself thinking, what is this?
Yeah.
I mean, is it supposed to say?
In this too, we get there's a lot of like fisheye lens and stuff, and real extreme close-ups of Kate's looking cross-eyed and stuff.
Yeah.
And we got like comedy music playing over these scenes. A lot of it is played like it's played like comedy horror kind of stuff. Anyway,
I've even been to stage shows and stuff where I saw Hamlet a few years ago, and they'd set it in made up time, you know, where there was things from different decades.
Yeah.
You know, like it was partly set in long ago, but also there was modern mass media surveillance.
That's the director trying to say this is a timeless story.
Yeah, but I kind of get why they're doing it, but it just gives me the shits because I try and line it up.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so they're doing that here, and it takes me out a bit.
Yeah. Okay, so she's invited to this party, and she's pulled Gina's name for the Secret Santa, so she needs to get a gift for her. So she goes home, she kills a bird. A duck, and she taxidermies it herself.
She shoots it with a shotgun.
She shoots it.
So she goes out and duck hunts.
Yep.
And then taxidermies. Yep. And we see it in loving detail.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty cool scene. I've never seen it before. Never knew how taxidermying really worked.
Yep, well, now we know.
Pretty great
she literally
scene.
yanks the skeleton out.
Yep.
Puts a skeleton-shaped, it's like styrofoam?
Yeah, maybe, because she does say it's styrofoam later, yeah.
Right. And pops it in, sews it back up. She's blow-drying the feathers.
Yeah.
She's replacing the eyes with marbles. I assume taxidermy's been chosen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's thematically... I don't know if it lines up.
Yeah, I'm not sure it lines up either, because
taking the insides out and putting a new inside in is not what I think happens here, but there's something about
it's the reverse, really.
Yes.
It's sort of running in parallel, I suppose. Things about transmogrification.
I don't quite like that, but I can kind of defend it in the sense that some other animals' meat is also not quite clear about insides and outsides.
That's true.
I don't think this is... I think this is like hammer on the head kind of thematically, this episode versus the comic, but
this is much...
in its defense, it can be a bit wishy-washy, I think, about
the source material.
Being based on the source material, which is not clear about.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, I agree. And this is perfectly clear, this episode.
Yeah.
What's happening?
So she goes to the party with these horrible women, and Gina gives out her Secret Santa boxes to everyone else, and they're all boxes of Aloe Glow. Yeah. But meanwhile, then...
So it's not Secret Santa at all. Gina's just given everyone else a present.
Yeah, for some reason. I don't know how this works.
And Stacy, Jane Micucci, has just shown up with her taxidermied duck.
Yes.
And they're all horrified at it. Fair enough.
There's a very funny line here where Kate says you can love him forever.
She pats it.
Yeah, she strokes it. Yeah. I did quite love that. So, because she's gotten a box of this Aloe Glow as well, she puts it on and she has an immediate allergic reaction. Her face goes all red.
Yeah.
But again, it's comedy music in the background. This is some kooky
It's funny
thing
now
that's
because
happening.
she's trying to fit in. She's been slopping it on. Yeah, we get our fisheye shots, people's hands putting the goo on. We have some sounds, some okay kind of special, some sound work, like...
Yes. Yeah.
But shock horror, she's gone bright red. Everyone notices.
Yeah.
She leaves in consternation with an ice packet. She looks shocking.
Yeah.
She goes home, and her husband, he's surprised, but she says, I just wanted, she starts saying the thing that we hear over and over and over, which is that she wants to fit in.
Yeah.
She wants to be beautiful like them.
Yeah.
She's tired of being stared at for being different.
Yeah.
She's tired of having creepy hobbies. She's tired of being judged. Aloe Glow seems to be... Aloe Glow... Not seems to be. Aloe Glow, and this is a very thinly veiled analogy for, I suppose, the beauty industry, or any commercial product that promises to make you feel better about yourself.
Yes. And I think more about social pressure to
as well.
That
yes, very much so.
I think more than being a critique of the beauty industry, that was my takeaway from it.
It's you're right. It's as much I think it's partly a critique of the beauty industry, but also about the social and cultural pressures. Yeah. Here, I think the episode kind of shines a bit because her husband is just the most. He's the most loving bloke.
He's the opposite of Keith in the comic, who's like, so was it a murderer?
Yeah, he's like a jerk.
Yeah.
A disengaged jerk. He constantly tells Stacy, "Why would you want to change?
Yeah.
You're perfect just the way you are.
I love that you do the taxidermy.
I love you." She says, "I just want to be able to walk into a room and make friends with anybody. Like the way Gina does." And he says, "You walked into a room and made friends with me." She says, "I want to be able to talk to anyone." And he says, "All I want to do is talk to you. And I kind of really like this because he's saying everything right.
Yeah.
But it's also not what she wants to hear.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
She can't hear it.
Yeah, yeah.
And in fact, it's a bit clueless that he keeps saying it over and over. He's very noble, loving.
Yeah.
He's so lovable and likable.
Yep.
He's just so laconic and laid back. He's like this Midwestern kind of cop. He's like, oh, he's just like, Stacy, you're just the best thing. You don't need to change, darling. But he's not aware that he's not helping.
Yeah.
And he just keeps saying it over and over, and it just makes her madder and madder because it's not enough,
Yeah.
He's just one guy.
Yeah.
All of society is arrayed against her, and she wants support in a different way. Not just to be told over and over that she's fine the way she is.
But I think part of the problem is it's not even all of society. It should be all of society. It is, in the real world, it is all of society. In the show, it's those 4 women at the bank.
And
those ridiculous cartoon and the commercial, which we'll talk about now. So we got a hint of this Alaglow late night 1-800 commercial. But now, that night, she comes down out of bed and she turns on the TV. All the commercials are on. But now we get one for Alaglow, starring the handsome dude from Downton Abbey, who died after 2 years. But he shows up as he speaks to her directly out of the TV and says, Stacy, you need this product to feel good about yourself and become the true you and all this kind of stuff. And meanwhile,
and this isn't a one-off. He keeps coming back.
Yeah, night after night, she has these conversations with him through the TV. Meanwhile, one of the bottles has started leaking itself, a bit like in the comic, but she's actually present while it's oozing out onto the table. It's starting to turn into The Stuff.
I was reminded of that too.
Larry Cohen's 1985 movie, The Stuff.
I was reminded
and a lot of scenes in this movie are like The Stuff. In a way...
I'm so glad you brought that.
And also her getting worse and worse, because she starts putting on the stuff again and again as she's listening to TV. She puts on more and more of this cream. It's turning into something like Stephen King's Thinner. Yeah. It's playing out like that. It's very kind of
it's
predictable horror.
Yeah, and that's fine for me, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. No,
it's much more fun.
Believe it or not, I'm okay with this episode.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, but it is really a Garth Marenghi kind of plot.
The beauty cream.
The beauty cream.
The beauty cream.
There's only one real surprise.
She opened up the can of She opened up the bottle of beauty cream. Out it poured. poured.
Yeah. There's only like one scene in this show that really surprised me, and we'll get to that. But so she's talking to the TV. One of the so Martin Starr, one of his lines is that these cosmetics companies are all making you think that there's something wrong with you. So
it's ladling it on pretty thick.
It is really just says it out loud.
Yeah, it does.
There's no subtext like there is in the comic, which is all subtext.
Well, it's all subtext.
Yeah. Here it's like
subtext.
Here's what this is about.
Yeah.
Let me tell you in one sentence.
Yeah. Is it even allegorical when it's straight up telling me this?
And
episode
she said
is
her
about...
response to him is, "You're a man."
This is true too.
That is true, but you didn't need to say it out loud for me to understand what was happening in this scene. Imagine if you cut those 2 lines out.
Yeah.
They're making you think there's something wrong with you, and you're a man.
Well, there's another line where he says those companies make money off of making you feel like there's something wrong with, he's all but saying these companies profit from your misery.
Yes.
He pretty much says that in so many words.
Yeah. She says, "I'm changing. It is happening." As you mentioned, she's like, her mind's set on it. She talks to the TV again. The TV tells her, "You need to let it grow." She says, "Let what grow?" Meanwhile, downstairs where she had magically a crate arrived at her doorstep. Yeah. And she took it downstairs where she's kind of hiding it from Keith, I guess. And they all start popping open and all the stuff oozes out. This is really like the Stuff where we get the whole crate is now full of the lotion. So that
it's bubbling out. It's pink.
The bottle's submerged.
It's kind of like a lurid pink.
Yeah.
Sort of like like the blood in Vault of Horror, kind of like a Day-Glow pink.
Yeah.
It's pouring out of the box onto the floor, and it starts to form a bulge. It's not very scary.
There's scenes where she's looking in the mirror, like, and her skin is like really bad, and it's like peeling off, very much like The Fly. Cronenberg's The Fly, or that scene in Poltergeist where the guy's looking in the mirror and he starts peeling off his face.
Speaking of Poltergeist, she also is right up against the TV in a scene that's very reminiscent of Poltergeist as well.
That's true too. Yeah,
where she touches the hand of the bloke in the screen, and I thought that's is this an homage to Poltergeist?
Yeah. Yes.
It does start to get kind of creepy.
So because she goes downstairs,
she's getting really raw.
and Keith sees her in this state, which is the next like fly state, and she says, "I want to take off all my skin and throw it in the garbage," which is an amazing line.
Yeah.
Very literal again, but I didn't mind it this time somehow. I think it was a strong line.
That's good. It's a good line.
She goes downstairs, and the ooze which we had seen kind of forming into the stuff, is now formed into a humanoid being.
Yep, there's someone in there.
Mimics her every motion. This was the moment I loved in this.
This is cool.
By the way, the creature was designed by Guy Davis, who was the artist of BPRD.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a long-time artist on BPRD.
So he did the concept. He came up with the conception for that.
And
he didn't do the makeup work. He's
been working with Del Toro doing concept art for quite a while after he left BPRD. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. There's someone in there as well.
Yes.
It's not Doug Jones.
No.
But it's Doug Jones.
Could have been.
Doug Jones is a talented bloke, but even he might have trouble pulling off because it's clearly a woman's silhouette.
Oh, it's not they didn't CG it?
No, there's someone in there.
Okay, interesting. Well, it looks really great.
Or maybe it's mocap.
It's a spooky scene.
Yeah.
Where this being, this ooze creature, is mimicking Kate's actions.
Someone's credited as the goop monster.
Right, okay.
Liz somebody. Like Liz Johnston or something like that.
Yeah. And she makes out with it. She kisses this thing on the lips. I like this too. I was like, this was unexpected.
This is cool.
What an interesting direction. It's like a loving yourself kind of thing, or loving the person she wants to be.
Or lusting.
Yes. She wants to.
She doesn't embrace it chastely after all. She backs onto it.
Yeah.
To me, it's like there's something dark.
Yeah.
Almost like a Jennifer-esque kind of destructive lust.
It did get. This is the 40-minute point of this 1-hour episode. So I felt like, can we have got to this a little bit earlier somehow? I don't know. Because I was loving this part. So she comes upstairs. We don't know what's happened with the thing downstairs. She's kissed it, and she's come back upstairs.
And she's covered in
lotion, and she, of course,
and
her
it's
skin is
especially
terrible.
all over her face, where she's...
And Kate's like, what have you done? She stabs him in the forehead with one of her...
scalpels.
Taxidermy scalpels.
Well, he's finally kind of snaps.
Yeah.
Like, it's too much even for this stolid...
Yeah, he's like, you gotta go to the doctor. Yeah.
It's too much. He's shaking her. Again, he gives an impassioned speech. Quite moving.
Yeah.
But it's just wasted.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
That's not what she needs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so great. He talks about... he talks about her taxidermy. He talks about how interesting she is. He says her full name. He's like, shake, it should be enough to snap, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because the forces acting on her are so pernicious. I really like it. Then she stabs him in the head with a scalpel.
Yeah. And then
this is played for laughs.
Yeah, he pulls it out. It's like pouring out. It's like pouring out in a ridiculous amount.
And he's kind of baffled.
He's like,
it's like
take
that
off
scene
my
in
glasses.
Delicatessen where the boomerang knife hits the guy in the forehead.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh shit, is this bad?
Yeah.
Should I pull it out? He pulls it out. He says, maybe I need a towel. He tries to use his dispatch radio to call for help from the police
She goes
station.
for a towel. She says, I'll get you a towel. And she comes back with an axe. And she axe murders him.
We saw this axe in the first scene.
Yeah,
so that's
it's
okay.
a bit like an EC comic, the way she kills him here.
Yeah, I like that.
And then she taxidermies him, which is a very
EC comic.
Very EC comic thing. Although, was he the one that needed the comeuppance? It should have been him that was a taxidermist, that was a bad guy that gets taxidermied. Yeah.
No, it's just apropos of nothing. He's just... It's just he's just stuffed.
Yeah, and
she leaves him on the couch.
Yeah, she leaves him on the couch. She dolls herself up. Looks like the Kate Micucci we know and love all the time. Whenever she appears on whatever, she looks fantastic.
YouTube. Yeah, she's very cute.
Yeah,
very cute.
Very cute. Goes to the bank. Everybody's in awe of her because now she looks like the other ladies, and
she's mesmerizing.
That's the best word. Yeah.
Yeah. The characters use the word mirage to describe her.
Yeah.
The security guard. He can't believe his eyes. He's like, Miss Stacy?
Yeah.
Incidentally, that security guard, his name, he's credited as Phatt Al.
Okay.
P-H-A-T-T Al.
Excellent. I wonder if he came up with that name himself.
Well, that's his.
Oh, that's the actor's name.
That's the actor's name. He's
Excellent.
credited as security guard Bank.
Phatt Al. Excellent.
But the actor's name is Phatt Al.
Okay. Love it.
But
Yeah, so
the
she-
final scene though, her eye, she's laughing and cackling with the other shrews now. But it's only skin deep. Like it's wearing wearing on her already.
Her
right?
husband is a cop, and she's left him dead in the living room.
Yeah.
How long before that gets discovered? This is very temporary.
Yeah.
But we get an amazing final moment.
Yeah.
Where it turns very surreal. The lighting around her turns surreal, and we don't see anybody else.
Yeah.
She's looking directly into camera. Everybody else is out of shot.
She's pulling all these amazing
She's pulling all
faces.
these crazy faces, going through a range of bizarre emotions, happiness, joy, sometimes nervousness, sometimes madness.
Yeah, it's great.
It's all
so it's
kind of
becoming
there.
strained,
Yeah.
and they've put this.
And she starts floating up. She starts floating, ascending up into the sky very slowly, just like a few feet off the ground, maybe.
pretty good.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the comic. So here, this is so we know this is not a happy ending. She's not, you don't taxidermy your husband and become a goop monster and get a happy ending.
Yeah.
She's not happy.
Oh, we forgot how she became a goop monster. We didn't even talk about the scene where she gets into the bathtub. The goop monster goes up to the bathroom and
pours itself in
like the T-1000, a bit like the shot in the comic where it goes up on the roof of the...
It is like a bit like that.
It goes in and she bathes in it, and it turns her skin all beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where it all peels off to, I believe in miracles.
Yes. Yes.
It all peels off her. It fixes her walleye.
Yeah.
She's now got perfect teeth.
Yeah.
So she's superficially happy, but that final scene where it's becoming strained, no, this is not a happy ending.
Yeah.
And true happiness, you don't find it through goop and husband murder.
Yeah.
So it's like you can get eternal youth and beauty if you murder your husband and bathe in a vat of monster goo. But that's not the route to happiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Offer up a sacrifice.
Yeah, and
Bathe in monster
I'm
blood.
not sure if we know exactly. Yeah, so I guess the lotion, because it was making her worse, but suddenly this version of it, this sentient kind of version of it, this alternate version of herself version of it, which she bathes in, is what fixes her outside, but she's maybe the same on the inside.
Well, it's just it. We don't know how long it will last. As you said, there's no way she's getting away with.
Even if it lasts forever, she's going to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is this like that Hong Kong film Dumplings or something? Is this temporary? Do you need to sacrifice another loved one in a month or two and bathe in some more monster blood?
Yeah.
There's no happiness this way.
Yeah.
That you can't find happiness through material things and through pushing away the people that truly love you for the acceptance of shallow, heartless bitches at work. So I'm fine. I'm fine with this message.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, I guess it's trivia time.
Right.
Do we know anything about this?
I've misplaced my notes, but there wasn't a lot.
Okay.
As I mentioned, Del Toro, he's been on the record as saying that he was inspired partly by things like the earlier anthology shows, things like The Twilight Zone, especially apparently Night Gallery.
Yeah.
He wrote an introduction to a recent book about Night Gallery that may or may not have accompanied a DVD re-release.
Okay.
Where he essentially said that, that's, even though Night Gallery is not as good a show as The Twilight Zone, apparently some very, very variable effects.
Okay.
Rod Serling didn't have as much creative control over Night Gallery, partly why it only ran for, I think, only 1 or 2 seasons.
2 seasons, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
But he said he found that's an image that's always stayed with him, Del Toro.
Yeah.
The Rod Serling wandering around that dark gallery, the freaky paintings. Interestingly, we might have got those introductory sequences by accident. Now, I read somewhere, couldn't find a definite source for this, but Del Toro himself was supposed to direct one of the episodes, apparently, as well as being kind of the producer and showrunner.
Okay.
But his other projects were running behind, apparently, because of COVID-19. So to compromise, this is what I read, he agreed to have some other role which
Okay.
turned out to be these
The horror
introductory
host.
sequences.
Yes. Okay. The Crypt Keeper role.
I take that with a grain of salt because I could only find the one reference to
Okay.
it, and it wasn't from an interview or something with Del Toro himself, so I'm usually reluctant to cite these kinds of things. But I just like that something so... This is one of my favourite things about the episode, that we had that,
Yeah.
that intro thing.
Yeah.
I might, we can talk about cabinets of curiosity. They were real things.
Okay.
Finally, this tickled me. They were not actual cabinets.
Okay.
They were rooms, generally.
Oh.
Or, so in the, something like, 500, 600 years ago, it was fashionable to collect curious things, curious objects, taxidermied things,
Right.
for example.
Right.
Taxidermied unique objects of art, paintings, historical artifacts, things like that. And you would have a room somewhere where you would categorize them and put them all on display. They were kind of like the precursors to modern museums.
Right.
And actually, some of the bigger collections did end up becoming museums,
Okay.
some of which still exist. But it's not a literal cabinet.
Yeah.
Cabinet used to refer to a room, and they were also called wonder rooms.
Okay.
So it's funny to me that Guillermo del Toro has a literal
little
cabinet.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. Not much else. Stephen Goya wrote one of the episodes.
Yes, I did notice that.
Yeah. So that's I'm always happy to see absolute comic book movie royalty.
Yeah.
Stephen Goya, writer
Yeah.
of Blade,
Yeah.
writer of so many comic book movie films and comic book movie television comic book television episodes and so on and so forth. So it's always great to see him back. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Okay, so how do you rate this comic?
Okay, so I read these and I'm like, grown-up comics. You know how I feel about grown-up comics. But to expand on, it's just everything really vague. I don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's all just about feelings and sensibilities.
It's about themes.
And I find, yes, there are themes, you're right. It's not allegorical. It's thematic, but not allegorical.
Yeah.
But, so I was all prepared to come in and absolutely dump on these comics because it's just more fucking Tamara Drew shortcomings kind of shit that gives me the
Huh.
irrits. But, no, when we were talking about it, I realised that it was dwelling in my mind much more than I thought.
Okay, huh.
And as we discussed it, I realised that these had made an impact on me despite myself.
Yeah.
They'd wormed my way into my brain, like you said.
Yeah.
It got its hooks in me.
Yeah.
Is it enough to vote yes? Or yay, rather? I think so. I think I'll vote
Yeah,
yay.
I love these comics.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I do really love them. I think they're really, genuinely scary, great horror comics.
I don't know if I found them scary, but I did find them... It's a bit like looking at a painting and getting a real non-verbal mood or sensibility out of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, what I really love about comics is writing, which is funny because it's such a visual medium. But the writing is so important in comics as well, It's the art. Sometimes I can enjoy a comic that has really shit art because it's just so well written.
For a long time, I've been arguing that the art simply has to... The heart has to be right for the story. So sometimes stick figures are what you need to tell a certain kind of story. It depends what the story, or not the story, it could be anything, could be a gag, whatever the point is, the art has to be right to make that point or those points. Because otherwise, if you take a generic artist like, I don't know, if you take take a great artist like Dave Gibbons and get him to draw the stories that are in Through the Woods, utter failure. The art's got to be a certain way. Maybe the artist knows what how their own art works.
Yeah.
Or what their art is going to be best suited for.
You're right. But I sometimes feel like, you're right, actually. You're completely right. Because Dave Gibbons' art wouldn't work with those stories.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes because there's no story.
Yes.
But I think sometimes if you have a great story, and at least you know how the panels are going to be laid out, the art almost doesn't. You absolutely shouldn't agree with that statement, but that's just kind of the way I feel, I think.
You're saying that the story could be good enough that the art, it doesn't matter what the art is like.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it depends on the story.
Yeah.
Entirely on the tone of the story and...
But nonetheless,
is it a story or is it a gag or what is it?
That story still needs to be a comic.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you could turn it into a short story and it would be as good. But if the writing's good enough, the art could be crap, I guess is what I'm kind of saying.
Yes.
Anyway, how did we even go down this line of discussion?
I don't know. I think you're going to make a comment about EM Carroll's artwork or art style.
I think. Oh no. I know what I was going to say. I think I like when it comes to horror comics, I think I'm more of the EC school than I am of the EM Carroll one.
Right.
I like a narrative.
Yeah.
I like it when it's got a beginning and a middle and end, and it's wrapped up with a kind of.
Well, that is interesting because they took that comic and they turned it into an EC comic.
Yeah.
They really turned it to a Stephen King EC comic. I'm
anticipating what I'm going to say about adaptation. Okay. But that's, if I have to, and I mean, I'm talking specifically about horror comics here, I suppose. But if I'm coming down on a side, as far as horror comics go, I'm of the EC school. Yeah. That's what I like. Or the creepy, eerie. Yeah. I'm more inclined, I guess I'm leaning more towards allegorical storytelling than I am towards a thematic sensibility where the story is less important. Yes. I'm literally doing kind of like a ticking clock movement here. The pendulum. Or a metronome. A pendulum, yeah. Actually, it would be more like this if it were a pendulum. Yeah. All right. What about the comic? You loved it. What about the episode? Okay, I'm okay with it. Despite all the things I've said, I'm fine with it if it's taken out of context. If you forget about Del Toro's name being on it, maybe, or forget about EM Carroll's name being on it, right? Then it's a decent one-off. Will I remember it in a year? I don't know that I will. Much like I've forgotten all those Jordan Peele Twilight Zones, and I've forgotten all of the Electric Dreams episodes, and is this a quality of it might disappear from memory, except for that lotion creature, which I'll probably remember. That lotion creature was pretty full on, and it's purple, it's pinky purple. Yeah. It's such an unusual. It looks, these kind of creatures, they're often black tarry kind of monsters, but this one is bright pink. Yeah. It's pretty cool. I think it functions fine. I think the performances, especially from Micucci and Martin Starr, are great. Yeah, well, they're the only. I mean, aside from some, I think one or two scenes with the unpleasant women. I think for this genre of show, if you're making an EC comic, if you're making a Tales from the Crypt episode, to say all that stuff out loud in plain words that's how it functions. Yeah. To taxidermy the guy at the end that's how this functions. So as a TV episode, a streaming episode, I'm like, it's a yay for me. Yeah. For me, yay as well, for the reasons you said. It's a very solid episode of television. I like the performances. Man, I really love Keith. I just love it. Whenever he's talking, and it's agonizing because you know what he's saying is right, but to be right is not enough in this benighted world. And it's good. I enjoyed it a lot. And as I said, I don't mind. I like it. It's heavy-handed stuff. I say allegorical. Does it even count as an allegory when your characters are saying the beauty industry is bad? Yeah. Stop wanting to change. You're perfect just the way you are. Yeah. They're profiting off human suffering. Here, Stacy is physically suffering. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Get it? Yeah. Because the beauty industry and capitalist exploitative kind of like extractive industries that depend on making you want to keep up with the Joneses or dissatisfaction with your look, your lifestyle, your state of mind, they are kind of causing suffering and profiting on misery. So we're going to have her skin flaking off so you don't miss the point. It is a bit heavy-handed, but I kind of like it. Yeah. So it's a yay for me. Yeah, it's a kind of like it, for me. As far as adaptation goes, I think this is a hard nay. This is probably one of the worst since Gwendoline and the Land of the Yik-Yak. They took like 2 or 3 names of things from the comic. The tone, the comic is not funny. It's not jokey. There's no laughs in it. There's the stories. Just opening with Micucci as Stacy, who's this kind of overweight middle-aged woman. It's a bizarre. Immediately I knew something was way off. Then Keith's a cop. I'm like, oh, how's this going to play into it? It was so completely different. Even the thing about her being the one that sells it in the comic, and here it's just like Secret Santa, she gets a box. It's like everything there was very few points of similarity on any level. I'm talking plot, theme, tone, anywhere. Very, very few points. Yeah, I love it. I just love hearing you say that. Because for me, this is a yay.
Well, you were yay on Gwendoline as well.
That's right. I was yay on Gwendoline as well.
Those two had nothing in common. But okay, go ahead.
Because I've said before, and I'll say it again, what I love about an adaptation, what I consider to be a good adaptation, is where the source is the seed and the adaptation is the flower. So here, the comic, now, I don't mind the comic, but the comic, I don't know what's going on. It's just a sense,
yes.
Right? There's this. Imagine a straight adaptation of this. It would be incomprehensible.
Yes, but that's my point. Is if you read a comic that's incomprehensible, you shouldn't. Your first thought should not be, I want to make a TV show.
You've made that clear over and over again over the past year and a half.
My other point
and yet you still continue to host a podcast about...
But my other point is that you have a seed and you have a flower, but the flower is just an EC comic. It's just a Tales from the Crypt episode.
Yeah.
That flower is not
This is a really good Tales from the Crypt episode.
We had a very unique comic. And then we've got a very not unique thing that came out of the end. I, the whole time, was thinking, my God, what was Carroll thinking when they watched this? It must have been...
I don't know.
It must have been
Perhaps we
heartbreaking.
can find out. I don't know. But for me, this is what adaptation should be, where you take the source's inspiration and you make something new out of it. Something more suited for the medium into which you're transposing
I don't think that this... Yes, you could have made it more suited for TV without making it just a horror movie cliche.
It might be just simply that I'm... Yeah, alright, it is a bit cliched. And it might be just that I'm simply saying that, gee... I wish they'd made it into an EC comic first and then made it into an episode of Guillermo del Toro's
They should have just found an EC that they could have... Well, of course, those are all Tales from the Crypts, but they should have looked for a Warren story, like something from Creepy or Eerie, and done that if that's what they were looking to do in the first place.
I don't know. I just feel like the director saw something in the comic, presumably, that resonated.
Oh, I think it was probably the writer.
Right, or the writer.
I'm guessing.
The writer, he or she, saw something that resonated with them.
Yeah.
And thought they could tell a great story about using that as inspiration. I did look up the writer.
I can't remember her name, but she's only got 4 credits on IMDb. Now, I think she's been in some writers' rooms. It sounds like she was a staff writer on some shows or something, but not a lot of credits. It looks, my hunch is that Del Toro just gave her a chance, saw something there, much like he saw with probably the comic, and with Amirpour was like, this is a director to watch out for, and she should be given a chance on this show. But it's just so...
It's a banal kind of bringing down to earth of the rarefied themes.
Of something that's different, a very different kind of comic.
And they've just straitjacketed it into a very ordinary hour of
Instead of trying, let's make a very different kind of show. You know what I mean? Let's try to do something...
I absolutely get your point, but I can't help the way I feel.
Anyway, okay. Before we move on, I did want to add one correction from last week, which is that the actress that played Jennifer, Carrie Ann Fleming, was also in iZombie, as was Steven Weber.
Yeah,
really? And she was on Supergirl and Smallville.
Fancy that.
I'm
Steven Weber and her reunited for iZombie.
I don't know if they're in the same episode or on screen together, but they are both in iZombie.
That would have been an interesting... Imagine running into the person with whom you shared those love scenes.
Yes.
Are they love scenes? Or they're pretty full on. Sex scenes is literally.
I'm trying to come up with maybe we should call this Comics Credits Cred Corner.
Comics Credits Cred Corner. I like it.
For that segment. Okay, so please rate, review, subscribe on whatever your platform is. Please join us on Facebook for the memes. Please join us on Instagram for the reels.
Yeah. Kumar's working hard on these reels, man.
I'm going to be putting up 1 or 2 a week. And please join our Patreon for the dough. And no extras, but, there's only 1 tier. It's $5 Australian or $6 or something. And it's patreon.com/comicbookmovieoblivion. Was there anything else? Is that it?
No, send us an email.
Yeah, send us an email. That's right. Send us an email. The email address is in the show notes.
Yep. Drop us a line on Twitter. Follow us.
Yes, can be reached on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. Yeah.
Very good.
So any of those places.
And as for next week?
Next week we will be doing Adam Sandler. The 1991 Raul Julia.
Oh, yes.
Adam Sandler.
Yes.
So we're kind of going...
Christopher Lloyd?
Yeah.
Uncle Fester?
Yes. Christina Ricci and...
Wednesday?
Yeah, who was...
Morticia? Not sure. But
Oh, it
tune
was,
in till next week to find out.
Yes. But we're rubber banding in terms of medium, in terms of the comic, because we've gone web comics, which are like the most radical. There's no strict formatting of pages. It can go anywhere to the one panel gag cartoon.
Is it a comic? Is it a cartoon? Tune in next
Yes.
week to find out.
All right.